Here are some things that all good readers remember. Predict what the book will be about. Ask yourself questions as you read. Try and work out difficult words. Listen to yourself as you read. Reread when you need to. Can you predict what this book is about? Click on a book feature to find out. Title. The title tells you something about the story. Can you predict what the story is about by reading the title? Illustration. The illustration on the cover of the book shows you something that is happening in the story. The picture on the front of the book shows you something you will find inside the book. What does this picture show you? What is this illustration about? Blurb. The blurb is on the back cover. It gives you a quick summary of the story. Can you predict what the story is about by reading the blurb? Table of contents. The table of contents is a list of the chapters in the story. How Pumpkin Got His Name. Written by John Carr. Illustrated by Michael Wilkin. Click on the speaker on each page to hear the story read. If you get stuck, click on the Help button. If you are having trouble working out a word, try these strategies. Skip the word and read on to the end of the sentence. Can you guess what the word is now? Does it make sense and sound right? Look at the start of the word. What sound do you hear when you say the first letter? Can you sound out the first 2 or 3 letters? Look at the whole word. Are there any parts you can sound out? Break the word into syllables. Reread the whole sentence. Can you think of a word now that makes sense and sounds right? How Pumpkin Got His Name. Written by John Carr. Illustrated by Michael Wilkin. Contents. The Triple R. Page 1. Right and Wrong. Page 7. Saved by the Bell. Page 14. Man Overboard. Page 18. A Curly Question. Page 24. Just Pipped. Page 27. Map. Page 31. My Diary. Page 32. The Raft Rap. Page 34. Glossary. Page 36. Characters. Carlo. Benji. Stace. Harry. Maddie. Pumpkin. Curly. Chapter 1. The Triple R. This is the story of how Porter Patterson got his nickname. We call him Pumpkin now. Benji nailed the painted pillowcase to a broomstick. The paint was still wet. He held it above his head. It said in big bright letters, Team Turbo. All the racing teams at Bathurst have names like this, Benji said. But this isn't a racing car. It's a raft, I said. Carlo, it doesn't matter, said Benji. It's just kids with 3 wooden paddles and 2 cricket bats, said Maddie. Who cares, said Benji. It's going to look great when it's engraved on the Triple R. The Triple R was short for the Salt Spray River Raft Rumble Shield. It was the prize for the kids' raft race held on the Clancy River every year. This year, Team Turbo was going to win it. This year we had a simple design. 6 truck inner tubes were tied together with rope. A thick plank of wood was tied on top. Benji put the flagpole in a hole in the plank and smiled. Come on, Team Turbo. Let's get this raft in the water, he said. Team Turbo? Someone said. That's a very fast name. You must have a very fast raft. Where is it? It was Porter Patterson. We knew that meant trouble. Here it is, said Maddie, pointing to our raft. That? He laughed. I thought that was a pack of doughnuts. Porter and Curly Top were still laughing when they put their raft on the ground. It didn't look homemade. Look at it, said Porter. It's my uncle's whitewater racing raft. Don't worry about Porter's raft, Harry said. Ours will be the only one in the race with GPS tracking on the web. Harry put his laptop in a cooler bag and tied a long rope to it. He tied the other end of the rope to another hole in the plank. Will that make us faster? Stace asked. No, but if we get stuck, anyone in the world will be able to see where we are, said Harry. Chapter 2. Right and Wrong. We stood in the river holding our rafts, waiting for the start. There were all sorts of rafts. Everyone was looking at Tony Donovan's, which wasn't really a raft at all. It was an inflatable bouncy castle. She just wants the prize for the biggest raft, laughed Porter. We won't have to worry about her. Porter's raft was next to ours. His team wore matching life jackets. Someone was missing. Where's Curly? I asked. He's not paddling, said Porter. He's got a more important job. Then the hooter went for the start of the race. The Salt Spray River Raft Rumble started with shouts, screams, splashes and laughter. The teams jumped on their rafts and headed downriver. It was a wild, wet scramble to get into the middle of the river where the current was fast. Paddle, Team Turbo, paddle! Shouted Benji from the front of the raft. We paddled as hard as we could. We were just ahead of Porter's raft as we came up to Bulmer's bank. This was a sandbank that split the river into two channels. We wanted to take the channel on the right because it was wider and deeper. So did Porter's team. Right! Shouted Benji. Wrong! I heard Porter shout. Then something red and squishy splattered onto the ice cream container that Harry had on his head. Harry dropped his paddle and slumped forward. I'm hit! He screamed. But the red stuff running down his neck was only tomato juice. Porter had a bucket of ripe tomatoes, and he was throwing them at us as hard as he could. While Porter's team paddled down the right channel, Team Turbo was going left. We were too busy blocking flying tomatoes to stop it. Before we could change course, the current took us down the wrong channel. Keep the fast lane for the races, shouted Porter. Keep paddling, Turbos, said Benji. Things could be worse. Suddenly, we hit a tree that lay across the channel. Benji was right. Chapter 3. Saved by the Bell. The fallen tree stretched right across the channel. There was no way through. That's it, said Benji sadly. The raft is too heavy to drag across to the main channel. I guess Team Turbo just hasn't got enough horsepower this year. Horsepower? Said Stace. Benji, you're brilliant. She leapt over the side and ran into the trees. Before any of us could think why Benji was brilliant, Stace was back. She had a friend with her. This is Belle, she said. This is the horse I groom for the Bulmers on Saturdays. Come on, Team Turbo, Stace said. Throw me a rope and let's get this raft back in the race." Stace knew a lot about knots. In a few minutes, she and Belle had dragged the raft over the sandbank and into the wide channel. Soon Belle was back in her paddock, and we were back in the raft race. We could see Porter's raft in the distance. Tony Donovan's bouncy castle was bobbing slowly down the river, about 20 metres ahead. "Paddle," said Benji. "We can still come second." Chapter 4. Man Overboard. "Paddle! Paddle! Paddle!" Harry shouted as we squeezed past the bouncy castle. He was more enthusiastic about the race since he had lost his paddle. Tony Donovan didn't seem to mind. She even handed Harry a piece of her birthday cake as we passed. We could see the road bridge in the distance. Behind it was the old wooden bridge that was the finish line. People were standing on both bridges, but there was no sign of Porter or his raft. "Maybe he's already finished," said Maddie. "Hang on," said Stace, pointing to something by the side of the river. "What's that?" It was Porter. "We're free of the barbed wire and we're still in the lead," he shouted. "Come on, team. The Triple R is ours." Porter's raft had been caught up in an old fence washed into the river in last year's flood. Now there was only about 20 metres between us. "Paddle," said Harry. "We've still got a chance." Benji and Maddie dug their paddles into the water even harder than before. Stace and I did the same with our cricket bats. "We're gaining," shouted Harry. "Faster!" Porter was standing at the back of his raft with the bucket, looking worried. "They're out of tomatoes," shouted Harry. "Not yet," Porter shouted back. "Wait till you get to the road bridge." As we got closer, we saw that the sides of Porter's raft were beginning to droop. "Hey, Porter," I said. "The barbed wire must have punctured your raft. Looks like it's going down." "The only thing that is going down is my name on the Triple R shield," Porter laughed. "This raft is as firm as ever." To prove it, he stood on the side of the raft. Splash! It wasn't as firm as he thought. He toppled into the water. "Help!" he shouted. Chapter 5. A Curly Question. We pulled Porter on board. He was glad to be rescued, but he still didn't want us to win. His raft was ahead of us, but getting flatter every minute. "Keep paddling!" Porter shouted to his team. "Keep paddling!" We could hear people cheering on the road bridge as we came alongside Porter's raft. I could see my mum, my sister Kylie, and Benji's dog Doris. Then I saw Curly Top. He was leaning over the bridge with something big and orange in his hands. "There's Curly," I said to Porter. "What's he got?" Porter looked up and smiled. "A pumpkin," he laughed. "It's a rotten pumpkin, and he's going to drop it right on your raft." Porter suddenly remembered that he was on Team Turbo's raft now. His smile vanished. He drew a deep breath and shouted, "No, Curly! No! No!" Chapter 6. Just Pipped. The words "no" and "now" sound a bit the same, and it was just bad luck that Curly heard Porter wrong. It was good luck that the pumpkin was so rotten that it sploshed onto Porter's head without hurting him. Porter was still wiping the pumpkin pulp from his eyes when the winning hooter sounded. "We won!" shouted Benji. Team Turbo has won the Triple R. Stace shook Porter's hand. I brushed off the pumpkin pips. Thanks for a great race, Pumpkin, said Benji, using Porter's new nickname. Pumpkin Patterson smiled. Sounds better than Porter, he said. Where did my raft come? A close second, said Benji. You just got pipped. Feels like it, laughed Pumpkin, and we all laughed with him until we cried. Map.
My Diary by Tony Donovan. Saturday, April 14th. Wow! I've just had the best birthday ever. But it didn't start like that. It felt like it was going to be the worst birthday ever when Dad told me he had hired a bouncy castle for my party. For a 9-year-old. Shame! Then he told me the good bit. The bouncy castle was going to be our raft in the Triple R. Yay! When we climbed on board, we were all dressed like princesses, but with life jackets on. The Salt Spray River Raft Rumble wasn't a race for us. Princesses don't race. We cruise. What a cruise it was. We cruised gently down the Clancy, eating birthday cake while the other teams raced. Yum! It was so exciting. I even shared a piece of cake with Harry Singh when Team Turbo came past. He's so cute. He had an ice cream container on his head. He had a squashed tomato on his neck, though. Yuck. After the cruise, we got the prize for the biggest raft. I won the fancy dress section, too. The funniest fancy dress was Porter Patterson, dressed as a pumpkin. We call him Pumpkin now. The Raft Rap by Stace McIntosh. Time to rumble, time to rumble, time to rumble while we float, time to rumble down a river in our blow-up boat. Time to rumble, time to rumble, time to rumble on our craft, our unbeatable, our inflatable, homemade raft. Time to rumble, Team Turbo's who we are, time to rumble with the pumpkin and win the Triple R.
Glossary. Barbed wire. Fencing wire with sharp points. Channel. The narrow, deeper part of a stream of water. Cooler bag. A portable bag to keep things cool. Hooter. The loud horn used to start and finish a race. Horsepower. A measurement used in the early days of steam engines. It is based on the power of horses needed to lift something. Let's do the Whizzy quiz for how Pumpkin got his name. Answer 10 questions correctly. See how long it takes. Type your name. Click on Start. What was Porter Patterson's nickname? Yes, Porter's nickname was Pumpkin. Great work. Why did Porter get a nickname? Yes, a rotten pumpkin sploshed on his head. Good work. What does inflatable mean? Yes, inflatable is something that can be expanded with air. Brilliant. Drag and drop the sentences into the correct boxes to show the beginning, middle, and end of the story. First Team Turbo made a raft. Then Belle, the horse, helped free the raft. Porter Patterson was hit on the head by a rotten pumpkin. Finally, Team Turbo won the Triple R. Awesome! Drag and drop the caption to match the characters. Harry, paddle, paddle, paddle. Maddie, it's just a bunch of kids with 3 wooden paddles and 2 cricket bats. Pumpkin, I thought that was a pack of donuts. Benji, come on Team Turbo, let's get this raft in the water. Yes. Revise the 7 mistakes in this sentence. Click Go when you have finished. Brilliant! Drag an adjective into the box. Yes, big is an adjective. Great work! Drag a verb into the box. Yes, leaning is a verb. Well done. Drag a noun into the box. Yes, bridge is a noun. Fantastic. Drag a pronoun into the box. Yes, he is a pronoun. Great work. Fantastic. Drag 4 words that have a silent GH in them onto the picture. Yes, bright, donuts, thought, and through all have a silent GH in them. That's really cool. Drag the words with a similar meaning into the boxes. Yes, a helmet is a hard hat. Yes, paddling is similar to rowing. Yes, a bunch is similar to a group. Yes, a dinghy is a small boat. Great work! Drag 4 words with 3 syllables onto the picture. Yes, container, beginning, disappeared, and Saturdays have 3 syllables. Let's make a spelling game. Type your name and click on Next. Look at these sentences from How Pumpkin Got His Name. See all the blue words? Choose 5 of the blue words for your spelling words. Pumpkin, rotten, wiping, shook, brushed. Click on Make Game to roll over the word bubble to hear the word. Rabbit. Roll over the sentence bubble to hear the word in a sentence. The rabbit hopped across the paddock. Type the word. If you want to make a correction, press the delete or backspace button on the keyboard. Click Go and your letter bubbles will float into the big bubble. Click on Play. Pumpkin. It was good luck that the pumpkin was so rotten that it sploshed onto Porter's head without hurting him. Type the next word and click on Go. Rotten. It was good luck that the pumpkin was so rotten that it sploshed onto Porter's head without hurting him. Type the next word and click on Go. Wiping. Porter was still wiping the pumpkin pulp from his eyes when the winning hooter sounded. Type the next word and click on Go. Shook. Stay shook Porter's hand. Type the last word and click on Go. Brushed. I brushed off the pumpkin pips.
Brilliant! You've spelled 5 words correctly. Now play again and choose another 5 words, or get a certificate. Silly story writer. Write a silly story for how Pumpkin got his name. Follow the instructions to write your silly story. Then click Next. Great job! Benji's Ride. A silly story from how Pumpkin got his name. Now you can read your silly story. Click on Edit if you need to make any changes. Click on Print if you're happy with the story.